Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Campaign Optimization Series. This session is titled Building a Global Demand Center with Precision at Scale. I'm Claudia Tarico, editor of Demand Gen Report, and I will be your moderator for this presentation. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a really great session lined up for you. But before we begin, I'm going to run through a few housekeeping slides, and then we will kick things off. So for those of you who are new to Demand Gen Report, welcome. We are an online media company that publishes daily news, a weekly email newsletter, special reports, original resources, and additional ebooks and resources and research, you name it, we have it. So if you haven't done so already, join more than 75,000 subscribers to our weekly newsletter by checking out demandgenreport.com today. And of course, don't forget to check us out on LinkedIn and Twitter. All of the links and handles are right here on your screen, and we look forward to engaging with you on social. I also want to take this time to introduce a new event that we have coming up this June. It's called B2B MX Next Level ABM. And since ABM has really evolved to become a business imperative in B2B, the B2B MX team created this upcoming event to provide a playbook for standing out against key accounts across channels. It's the B2B marketing exchange you all know and love with an ABM twist. So don't miss it. Registration is now open, and I hope we can see you there. We're also really excited to say that we've partnered with Grubhub yet again to offer some lucky attendees a free lunch while they enjoy the series. So check those inboxes, see if you got that yummy email from Grubhub to access that lunch credit. And for today's presentation, we'll be using this On24 platform, and you'll be able to access everything that you need, all of the information that you need from this toolbar that you see right on your screen. So during and after the session, please follow along and check us out on Twitter. Use the hashtag @COSeries. Share your thoughts, feedback, and all of that fun stuff. You could actually tweet from directly within this On24 platform using the widget on the upper left-hand side of your screen. A few more things. We also encourage you to ask our presenters questions today. So to do so, simply click the Q&A widget at the top right corner of your screen. The session is slated to run about 35 to 40 minutes with an additional few minutes for Q&A. So submit those questions, and hopefully we'll get to them later after the presentation. And then also, if you want to see what else we have in store for you in the series today, you can access all of the COS sessions on the bottom left of your screen. And then on the bottom right of your screen, you'll find some additional resources that we've made available to you. The session, as always, is being recorded, and you will all receive an archive link to it to go back and review and share with colleagues. And in addition to joining the conversation online right now and submitting all of your questions and going on social, please take a very brief survey if you can. It'll automatically launch when the webinar ends. You could actually also pull up, complete, and submit the survey at any time during the session by clicking on the survey icon that's circled at the bottom of your screen. So before signing off today, please take a moment to complete this quick questionnaire so we could continue to enhance our virtual events to your liking. All right, well, now I'm so excited to introduce our featured speakers for today. We have Scott Vaughan, Chief Growth Officer at Integrate, and Leslie Alore, Global VP of Growth Marketing at Ivanti. Leslie and Scott will introduce themselves in just a second, so I'm going to stop talking and let Scott take it away. Scott, all yours.
All right, Claudia, thank you. And thanks for having Leslie and I on. And we applaud Demand Gen Report for this drill down detail into everything that's happening. Boy, to say that business and marketing is going through change would probably be an understatement. So today, Leslie and I are going to spend some time talking about really how do we begin to move forward and get more aligned with the buyer and the markets that you serve. How do we think about moving from random acts and campaigns to more scale to be able to create buyer's journey and flip that to the buyer's process? So it's a little funky, Leslie, today, because Leslie and I are used to, like all of us, to being in a room with a whiteboard and bantering. And we've had the pleasure of being able to work on several projects over the years together in trying to build out new strategies and a new way forward. So Leslie, welcome.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks so much for having me. I'm delighted to be doing this with you again, virtual or otherwise. Hopefully we'll be in a room again soon, be up on a whiteboard, hashing through things. But I'm super excited to be here, and I'm happy to be in the realm of the growth marketers and growth leaders. It's a relatively new role for me, and one that I was delighted to follow in your footsteps on as well.
Yeah, we both have growth titles. That's probably good to point out. And I think one of the things in a campaign optimization series like this, Leslie's going to share her story and her journey so far with the team at Ivanti. And before we do that, one of the things I have the great privilege of is working with lots of different B2B organizations, and then also doing that within Integrate. So I'm going to share that view of what we see happening with buyers, what we see happening with marketing, and the shifts and changes that can happen. And then Leslie's going to really tell the story of what's happening at Ivanti so far. Hopefully, you'll all be able to relate to many of these things that are going on. So without further ado, let's just call it out. This is a little bit of a therapy session, but I think we all have to acknowledge that right now, B2B marketing is hard. We all have a North Star of some type that how do I move from this random acts of marketing into being more buyer-centric? And this is not just to deliver buyer experiences and personalization. This is next level. Buyers expect that you are able to deliver the right information at the right time, yes, but how do I do that at scale? How do I move from being a demand mindset and generating leads to actually being able to generate unknown buyers and accounts and deliver information and use data to be able to do that? Move from individual campaigns that are on your internal timeline to more of an always-on mindset. And this is really what the next movement in marketing looks like. And a lot of people describe this as, how do I flip from my internal marketing and sales-driven process to the buyer's process? To say during the pandemic that we've seen a shift where the buying groups are all remote, they're not in a room making decisions. The numbers that I'll get to in a minute are staggering, how many touch points it takes in a pure digital world for people to gather the information they need. And it's not like sellers, our sales partners can just dial up and say, hey, I'm going to be in Denver next week and I'm going to come by. Marketing has to step into a much bigger part of the buying and selling process and play a much more active role in that whole effort. And in fact, if you look at the numbers, you can see over the last year the increase in the number of touches that are required as the world has moved digital first, where buyer expectations that they need the right information. There's a lot of pressure on the decisions they're making. So Gartner talks about the lack of buyer confidence as well. Well, marketing can step in and play a role to deliver that, especially when sales doesn't have the same kind of access or face-to-face. And as we come through the pandemic, as I knock on wood, to make that happen or hope that happens, it's going to only continue that their habits have changed. And that means with that complexity, more buyers are getting involved in these decisions as we help companies transform their business. And the final point is a lot of us are talking about becoming more intelligent, becoming more, putting in an account-based foundation. The reality is, and this is why it's important for always-on thinking and a growth mindset versus a demand mindset alone, is that only a maximum of 15% of companies are in market at any one time. And that's according to the intent data. That means you can't time your campaigns because, hey, we have an internal launch, or we have a product launch, or there's an industry conference. Not that we have to stop that, but if that's what you're building your marketing around, it's very hard to grow. Another view of that if I could, I'll take a look at this for perspective, maybe a little bit of an industry view to gain some perspective and maybe some inspiration of how to think about this and where to go. Think about all that marketing automation did for us. Incredible movement when marketing automation came on the scene 12, 13, 14 years ago, where we could actually build a database, we could build funnels, we could really generate leads at new levels, we could connect to our website. Big progress. But some of those habits that worked for us in those early days of marketing, now everybody has marketing automation, and it's not really buyer driven. So a lot of the reaction over the last 6 or 7 years is, okay, well, we'll move our mindset and our campaigns to an account-based marketing. We love account-based, and we think it's foundational. But if you think about one of the challenges of it, when you move to account-based and you go all in just on account-based, it's really sales-driven. It's a reaction to marketing getting leads to sales. And is that really the mission? Is that really what we're trying to do? What we see and what we would argue is this next 2 or 3 years in marketing is going to be about becoming buyer-driven. How can I organize around the buying process? How can I deliver against the buyer's journey? And the difference here is it's flipping your mindset from that internal driven to the buyer driven. We talk about that as precision demand marketing and being able to dial in and target and activate campaigns and connect the tech and data that you need so that you can measure it, and being able to deliver that at new levels. And we're going to see that in the march that Leslie and her team at Ivanti are making in the growth world. So if that's our backdrop, Leslie, do you have any thoughts or comments on?
I do. So Scott, when you first showed me this slide, I couldn't help but smile because I actually, my career was born through marketing automation. That's where I started. And, I feel very passionately about it. And I feel passionately about it today, in fact. I think that this journey that we're on doesn't abandon any of the former principles, but rather builds upon them. So we didn't abandon marketing automation for ABM, and we're not abandoning ABM for precision demand, but rather that they're layering on to allow us to be better and better from a marketing perspective. And so what you really get, and maybe this should be like a triangle, is a trifecta of marketing, sales, and the buyer working together. So every time I see this view and this perspective, it makes me smile to see the journey that we're on as a marketing discipline. And I think it's one that is unique to B2B, but also introduces principles of B2C, which we're seeing starting to converge more and more.
So well said. And yeah, I like your triangle and making buyers part of the process. It's ironic that we're saying that, especially as demand or campaign pros or marketing ops pros. Look at how this works today. And the buyer is at the center, right? Or the buying groups and the accounts supposed to be at the center, but we're really not organized that way. The way we're thinking about doing programs or campaigns or running our channels, we're actually competing for the buyer's attention. In lane one, right? It's like a swimming pool in an Olympic race. In lane one is our events marketer, and we're swarming them with our events. And in lane two is digital, so we're using search and programmatic advertising to connect with them, and email, and the story goes on. So how do we think about moving from these random acts and individual channels to more of an always-on growth mindset and use precision demand marketing to be able to target the right message and the right channel to the right buyers and buying groups at the right accounts? And so this is more of an orchestrated effort. And by the way, there's no one technology, there's no flip a switch and it's all solved. This is, as Leslie articulated, a journey. So Leslie, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I want to hear a little bit about Ivanti's journey and what you found and what you're doing.
My pleasure. Thank you. So, for those of you who may not be familiar, and I am hearing some feedback, sorry. Oh, there we go. All right. So for those of you who may not be familiar, Ivanti is an IT software company, and we specialize in UEM, ESM, and security software. particularly targeted at enterprise IT organizations. But this really isn't about Ivanti so much as it is a journey that Ivanti is on that I think will be familiar to many, many people. And we're on it at a very, very rapid pace. So we've gone through a lot of change in a very short time. We brought in a new CMO in October of last year, and obviously 2020 was a very interesting and challenging year for marketers. And I joined the company shortly after in November and established the growth marketing team. And we're going to talk about that growth marketing team today because this in itself has been a journey and a shift for Ivanti and not necessarily an easy one. And I suspect probably a familiar one. Many have gone through this or are looking at going through something like this. But we did this because we're a company with ambition. And in December, we doubled in size in terms of revenue through making a couple of acquisitions. We have ambitions to triple our size over the next 3 years and acquire approximately a company per quarter. So this is a company that is certainly going to grow through acquisitions, but equally we want to grow through really ambitious organic growth. And marketing has a role to play here. And it's one of the reasons that I chose to come to Ivanti, because the leadership team saw that marketing is indeed an engine for growth, in partnership with sales, which is super refreshing and super exciting. And we've quickly launched into a number of projects and initiatives to lay the groundwork to enable this growth function. And Scott, you talk to companies all the time who I think are on similar journeys, right?
This is the path. And that's why I think we're starting to hear the words growth pop up. It's not some new labeling. It's a mindset and a structure that we're moving to. I think that's 100% right. And this is how you drive growth. And marketing needs to be have a seat at the table and much more of a driver. And it can't be done one campaign at a time. I love to pick up a shovel and do the work, but you got to be able to do it at scale and predictably. And I'm really curious to see what you're talking about here, Leslie.
Yeah, and so you said it. This isn't a rebrand. And I cannot stress this enough. So we did make a very conscious and are still making a very conscious and intentional shift from what we had historically called field marketing to what we now call growth marketing. And it is not simply a new label. It is a new structure, a new methodology, a new mission statement, and a new way of thinking and talking and behaving. And so, words carry a lot of weight. They have a lot of power as marketers. I think we know that. And I think if you look at some of these words that have been traditionally affiliated with the field marketing function, it was some of the things that Scott mentioned before, events, and we're talking about lists and leads and lining our campaign calendars and worried about attribution and, fighting over did marketing source this or did sales do that? And, when the pandemic hit and we couldn't do events, it was all about webinars like this one. And some people saw field marketing as a support function to sales. And look, some of these things we don't abandon. We carry forward into our new methodology and way of thinking with growth marketing. And some of the things we do, we've moved beyond. And so we're looking towards new words, things like predictable demand, creating scale while also balancing precision, which sound like they may be in conflict, but in fact they're not. And I'll talk more about that. Looking at sales as a partner to us. I genuinely believe that the marketing and sales relationship is one of pure symbiosis. We have equal goals. We have the same objectives moving forward, and we each bring different skills to the table. There are things sales can do that marketing cannot. We don't close a deal ever. And there are things that marketing can do that sales cannot. They're not going to go put programmatic advertising into market. right? But we need to be driving towards performance together. We need to be doing this in a very measured, integrated, automated way. And we also need to be thinking about our customers by creating memorable experiences that are world-class. And my favorite word on here is revenue. And I'll talk more about that too. So one of the things we did early on, it wasn't the first thing because the team needed to understand what it really meant to make this shift to growth marketing. But fairly early on, once the team started to form and get their feet under them, we did a workshopping exercise. And of course, because we couldn't get together in person, we used a virtual whiteboard. And we actually, I had the team brainstorm what they thought our mission statement should be. And people's brainstorm contributions could be any combination of write a mission statement to throw out some words that you think mean something. And some of those words you saw on the previous slides. And the output of that was a mission statement that the team has collectively created. And I think this was so crucial because the team was able to do this together, it's something that we feel like we own, we embody and embrace. So our mission statement, you see leading edge, predictable, scalable, and of course we're a demand gen engine, but what we do, what we produce is world-class marketing campaigns and memorable customer experiences. And the outcome of doing this really well will be the end goal, which is the leads, the pipelines, the bookings, and the revenue. So Scott, I'm curious, when you first saw this mission statement, what did you think?
Well, first of all, I love that you pulled the team together and made them part of creating the bigger picture, because sometimes we go to work every day and we get lost in our campaigns. We get lost in our metrics of, our search metrics or all of those things. And it takes a team. Remember the slide we showed with the random acts or the individualized? And I think that step of coming together and being a catalyst to do that, that's what drives growth. I love that it's outcome focused. And I think you can do campaigns and experiences in one motion. We don't have to abandon campaigns. We have to think about our campaigns and storytelling and more of an always on connected. I'm inspired and excited about it because I do see a shift. And I do think we're trying to outrun a few of the bad habits. There's so many good habits, but a few of the bad habits of automation.
Yep, most definitely. And so let's unpack this a little bit, because this mission statement is also a promise. It's a promise we're making to ourselves, and it's a promise we're making to the business. And in order to deliver these things, these promises, which I've kind of grouped into 3 categories, there are a few things that you really need to lay out. So to deliver a leading edge, predictable, and scalable demand gen engine, you need to define how you will measure that engine. What are the KPIs that matter? And the end goal is an important one, but equally important are those leading up key performance indicators, right? You need to take bite-sized pieces. You need to understand your buyers and the behaviors that they exhibit throughout their journey. And this is not easy. And by the way, this changes a lot. It changed a lot last year, and we're still learning how buyer behaviors have shifted. And you do need to have a fully integrated and optimized technology stack to be the foundation, right? And I say this a lot. Scott has said this before, I know, which is that technology is not the answer. It is a tool. Right. So just like, when ABM got big and everybody was selling ABM platforms, that didn't magically enable you to do account-based marketing. Right. So, but it is a foundation that enables you to deliver on your strategy. When we talk about world-class campaigns, again, it's about understanding that buyer and the needs that they have. And then ultimately, it's really about serving up the content and the message that's resonant, that's formatted the way people want to consume information. Some people like video. Some people want to watch video with no sound. Some people want to read short format, long format. You need to have it all. And it needs to be positioned to them in the right watering holes, the places they go at the right time for every individual. And this is where that precision starts to come in. You don't create a piece of content for an individual buyer, right? You create content that's designed to serve the needs of multiple people, to deliver on that scale. And you need to have systems in place that support that scale, but the timing needs to be right for the individual. And then you have to, of course, have the right capabilities to execute on this. And capabilities mean people, processes, tools, the whole kit and caboodle. And then finally, memorable customer experiences, and probably some of the most important when we're competing in a world that is just absolutely inundated, especially in the digital space, which means that I think it all starts with a commitment to the customer's experience first, which sounds like an easy thing to say. We all love to say we're customer centric, customer focused, customer obsessed, whatever words you use. But living that is actually harder than it looks, because as soon as you've got a challenging sales partner who has an idea of something they want, and you know or believe that it maybe isn't the best customer experience, what do? Right? All of a sudden you're in a difficult spot. So you need to recognize the experience of the customer matters and will have a big impact on your success, and recognize that the customer is in fact a person. So account-based marketing can sometimes forget the fact that at the end of the day, you are marketing to people. And people, by the way, are irrational. Whether you would like to believe it or not, we are all irrational. So understanding the emotional behaviors and drivers and motivators of the people within those accounts can actually matter quite a lot. And salespeople know this better than anybody. And then, of course, you always need to be offering value. You can't just barge into somebody's life, into their computer, into their office, and because you have a thing to say in a moment. You need to react to their moments. And this is an area where I've actually been challenged personally with the words demand generation for most of my career, because it implies almost manufacturing of demand, which of course doesn't happen. Scott shared that stat from Bombora, which is only 15% of people are in a buying cycle at any given time. You can't force people to be in a buying cycle when they're not. You might be able to successfully create demand for your offering versus somebody else's, but that demand journey actually happens long before somebody is in that buying moment, and you are not going to create a moment where there is not one. What do you think about that, Scott?
I just love that you have a rational framework or approach. This is a good screenshot capture here to go in, and other demand digital and campaign leaders here to be able to build this. A very rational response to our buyers are irrational. I think that's really, really well said.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of behavioral economics. In fact, a little personal fascination of mine. So let's talk about the people, because this all comes down to the people, to the team that we have. And so when we made the shift to growth marketing, we also made a shift in the way that our organization and our team was structured. And of course, there are many departments across marketing, and they're not all represented here. But what is represented here is specifically the growth marketing team, which is made up of 3 separate functions. So the first functional group is the growth marketing strategy team. These are the people who are aligned to our go-to-market sales teams. So we have different business units and different go-to-market leaders who lead those business units. And we have marketing strategists who are aligned to each of them. They are kind of the handshake to the sales organization. And we sometimes refer to them as our mini CMOs, because while they're not responsible for every function in marketing, they are responsible for understanding what is happening in each of those functions, conveying that information back to their sales partners, and then bringing the needs of their go-to-market partners back to the rest of the marketing functions. And at the end of the day, it's this team's job to understand the business objectives of the go-to-market to which they're aligned and translate those into marketing objectives and marketing plans. So the kind of people in this role are very comfortable working with sales. They have very strong communication skills. They are people who have a very high level of business acumen and are comfortable operating in an environment where they're, getting pressure from all sides. They are the conduit between the sales organization and the rest of marketing, so to speak. And once upon a time, you might have called these people the field marketers or the demand marketers, and there are certainly elements of that too. But I think that the level of strategic thinking and business acumen here, as opposed to the hands-on doing of the marketing execution, is where the difference really is. And these people have a growth mindset all the time. Then we have the demand center of excellence, and many of you will be familiar with the demand center concept. This is a Serious Decisions Forrester framework, and I've tweaked it a little bit, and I call it the center of excellence because while indeed this is a group of people who are supporting the execution of our marketing activities as a shared service to the marketing organization, they also bring specific demand expertise to the table. Our digital marketing strategists in this group. So they execute and oversee our paid media, but they also advise and provide consultation. We have integrated campaign execution and optimization. And yes, they build and execute the campaigns. They're the fingers on the keyboard. They're making the emails. They're running our marketing automation systems, but they're also providing recommendations and saying, here's what I'm seeing. Here's how people are reacting. Here's what I might recommend to you. And that kind of comes to that best practice consultation. So they're more like an internal agency than purely an execution arm. And then we've also brought marketing operations into the fold in this group. And of course, marketing operations service the entire marketing organization, not just the growth team. But it's such an integral and foundational part of what we do within the growth team that it felt appropriate to make them a part of it. And so this is the group looking after funnel operations, managing the tech stack, our strategy. So they understand what the growth strategy and objectives are, and they advise on the technology that will help serve those needs. They are the ones who take the requirements and translate those into technology solutions. And then, of course, the data and compliance side, because data is everything today. And I know you have a lot to say about data, right? Right, Scott?
Oh, I just love that you've called that out and put so much effort, because you can do the greatest work in the world, but if your data is not marketable or you don't have the right permissioning or whatever, none of it matters. You spend all that energy and time. So one, I love that. But what I think I like looking forward about the thinking here, Leslie, this is how you begin to collapse those silos. You talk about digital strategy, not about channels and individual functions. This is a big step forward in putting a center of excellence so that you do have, there's a team that's looking more united at what's happening. They're not looking at an individual channel. They really have the buyer and growth in mind. And the last thing is for everybody listening in on this discussion, think about your career strategy. This is one of those moments we're in marketing where you have 3 or 4 paths. You're not just, don't have to be just in demand. You can really move to strategy and to ops. And I just think it's one of those moments, like about 8-10 years ago, we saw a big movement of role changes. And I think we're at that point. And I applaud the effort for you to organize this way. And I bet the team is excited about the opportunity. This is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I would hesitate to speak for my team, but there's been a lot of excitement. And for the people who have really dug in and been doing this for a few months now, we're really seeing the momentum pick up. We're seeing the partnership. And I'm glad you mentioned silos, because silo busting is one of the things that we absolutely realized we had to do. Avanti, while we may be the largest company nobody's heard of yet, we've got a bunch of brand campaigns happening to fix that. But our marketing team is 180 people, right? That's a pretty good sized team, and silos can form very easily. And I'm very, very proud of the team for the amount of collaboration and effort they've put into working together. And so, our digital guys, they actually know all the email campaigns that are going on. I hate using the term email campaigns. We don't really do any campaigns that are just email. But my point is that they're intimately understanding all of the channels and tactics that are being leveraged in service of a particular campaign or a set of campaigns that are being designed to achieve specific objectives for the business units. They don't have their blinders on, and they're not like, well, I'm paid media or I'm paid social and I'm looking over here, and whatever you're doing over there, hopefully it's connected to my stuff. It's all It's all being done together. And the growth marketing strategist, their role is overseeing that and ensuring that that continuity. Because our goal actually is to create an omni-channel experience for our buyers in whatever channel they choose to engage with us in. And that brings me to, about making it all personal. So the journey to pipeline, which is what this is about, is personal to the people that we market to. They are people. And I feel like maybe a broken record, I keep saying it over and over again, but it's a personal journey, and it's a personal journey for us as marketers, because of course we're people too. And it's not easy to make this change. And I'm not going to pretend like it is a small one, right? It is a shift in mindset. It is a shift in the way we are approaching our methodology. We've completely ripped and replaced our entire tech stack. And it's a change in how we partner with sales. And by the way, this has not been an easy change for sales. We had sales teams that we had 4 companies so far come together over the last few months that were on their own, small companies that are now one big company. So learning how to operate in a big company is hard enough, but learning how to operate in a big company that is this ambitious and growth minded is challenging. And then layer on top of that, we're saying, hey, marketing is working differently. We're not your sales support function anymore. We're not spending all of our time on swag and golf outings. We have some real impact and growth objectives that we need to make to the business in partnership with you, sales. So let's take some time to understand one another, educate you on what we're doing, hear from you about where your priorities are, and work together to be as impactful as possible. And by the way, do it with the best possible customer experience outcome. So Scott, I saw you smile when I mentioned this being a challenge for sales. Are you hearing this from others that you talk to as well?
Yeah, there's no question. I love that you have the mindset of sales as your partner, not your customer. We're not here to serve sales. We're here to serve the buyers in the markets we serve and compete in. So I think there is a mindset shift that I'm seeing here to get us to that next level of buyer driven and out of the internal process.
Yep. And we're not totally there yet. I spent all last week in QBRs and I try to get as deeply involved with all the sales teams and leaders as I can to bring them on this journey with us. But it is hard. And I guess the question people might be asking themselves is, all right, I feel like we're doing okay. So why make this change? Is it worth it? Well, it's early days. It's very early days as far as I'm concerned, because we've only been at this for about a quarter now, maybe a little more. And, we have longer sales cycles, so it will take some time to see the result. But here's what we're finding so far. 41% of our pipeline is generated by marketing now, and that is in comparison to less than 30% only 3 months ago. Wins from marketing generated pipeline has increased substantially, with 52% coming from marketing generated pipeline. We set very, very clear and I think ambitious targets for ourselves in the first quarter, and we did achieve, way overachieve actually, on our number of opportunities created, and when we overachieved on the value of our pipeline so far. So these are encouraging early metrics. We're not celebrating yet. It's too soon until we see the true impact to revenue, which I will address. But it so far, the answer of is it worth it seems to be, I think so, yes. And I think it's just, you gotta have the conviction that it's the right direction to go anyway. But at the end of the day, and Scott and I talked about this, I consider this the ultimate metric. The ultimate metric is not what did my marketing generate. It is what has the business generated in pipeline and in bookings. So I actually present to our ELT every third week on total pipeline creation, not marketing's pipeline creation. When I host bi-weekly interlock calls with our sales teams, we inspect the total pipeline together. What is the state of our pipeline looking? Do we have the coverage that we need as a collective business? Am I tracking what marketing is doing? Absolutely. But if we get wrapped around the axle as some marketing teams have done in the past about, well, we did this % of the pipeline, so yay for us. Well, if you did 30%, 40%, 80% of a crap pipeline, who's that good for? Nobody. So that's what I had to share. I think that there's still a lot of opportunity for improvement. There's a lot to go on our journey, but I'm really excited, and I hope that this was interesting and useful to people.
I just love that you're thinking about not about attribution for credit or attribution for performance, understand what's working and what's not. And that is a change in mindset, and I love it. Well, we're happy to be on the journey with you, you and the team, Leslie. And one of the things that really thinking about your approach is getting the team right, breaking down the silos. I heard a lot of themes there. And when you're doing campaigns, you're not doing campaigns just to put them into market, but think about how they impact that irrational behavior, how to become more precise in timing. I think all of those things are powerful. And as we work with our key customers, I can tell you a little bit about just a bigger picture of where others are going as you take this journey. One is that we're able to talk about how to bring the channels together, the process together, the technology that you're using, because if you want to become buyer driven and have an account foundation, these pieces need to be connected in a meaningful way. And that's really what we think about, and we do it integrate in our solution, and we apply precision to help companies apply precision demand marketing using our demand acceleration platform. So we're very excited to be on the journey with you and applaud all your efforts. I know you always have the caveat so far, and we know we're only as good as the last quarter or the last month. We get all that, but applaud your efforts, and always glad to be partnered with you, Leslie, and to showcase you and the whole Ivanti team's work collectively. And if you guys are interested, we do integrate lives. They are kind of bring to life the great work that Leslie and her team are doing, and we showcase some of those solutions and how to tackle things like eliminating silos and increasing performance and doing analytics and putting data and governance in place. So you can go to integrate.com and look at that. And of course, Leslie, I think you're open to just connect with either of us on LinkedIn to dive in and go a little bit deeper.
Absolutely, most definitely. Keep the conversation going.
Well, Leslie, appreciate you. And I hope everybody enjoyed this session. As Claudia said, you're going to be getting the slides and everything. So Claudia, I'll turn it back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Scott and Leslie, for that awesome session. I love the conversation you guys just had. Really, really awesome insights and takeaways there. And they actually, the session, of course, sparked a ton of really, really great questions. We have a few minutes to go through those today. But just a quick FYI to everyone, if we don't get to your questions right now live, we will be sure to follow up via email. Before I get to those questions, I just want to quickly remind everyone to please share your thoughts and feedback before signing off today. You can do so by clicking that survey icon, or just wait for the session to end and the survey will automatically launch. All right, so let's get to those questions. Okay, I think this one's for Leslie. Who helps lead the strategic shift at your organization? Is this solely led by marketing?
That's a great question. So actually, this shift comes all the way from the executive leadership team. And in fact, before I joined the company, I met with many of the senior leaders, including the president of Ivanti, because I wanted to understand the business strategy and understand how they saw marketing fitting into that. So, I had to, they didn't put out a requisition for a growth marketing leader. I started talking to the CMO, and I proposed this organization to them and met with them multiple times about it. And so this was about a collective executive leadership buy-in on how marketing will play a role in helping the company achieve growth objectives. Awesome.
Thank you. All right. I think All right, I'm going to throw this one at you, Scott. Do you see key channels with the biggest opportunity or ROI with the PBM shift?
Boy, that's a great question. I think we wouldn't favor any one channel as a general statement, just because, as Leslie articulated, and we see every day over and over, you really have to put the right information in the right channels at the right time and get the mix down. You don't have to do that on day one. You do that by doing programs and campaigns and being able to mix it. What I will say is that you do have to begin to blend the digital channels into that experience. So when do I need longer form content and engaging the known and unknown buyers and accounts, say maybe using content syndication, then using advertising, not just for awareness, but maybe how do I do a digital journey? Anyway, just to be able to put those channels, and maybe social plays a different role. So don't fall in love with any channel is the message that we've learned. Think more about how to eliminate silos and connect those channels. That's really the mindset we see winning out, as Leslie articulated.
I love that. Another one for you, Scott, is a precision demand marketing shift limited to the marketing team? Or what recommendations do you have for sales, CSMs, or professional services teams?
Yeah, it's definitely not limited to marketing, but marketing has an opportunity to be an agent of change and a catalyst, and to showcase. I think we saw what Leslie shared, that how she conducts her quarterly business reviews with sales and those other functions. And so that becomes really important and powerful in our ability to do that. And you have to partner with those other functions, because if you're going to become buyer driven, you can't just stay in your marketing lane and be able to do that.
Great. All right. Leslie, I think this one's for you. What changes have you made to your tech stack to support the strategic shift?
Yeah, so there's actually been quite a lot of changes that we've been making. We did do a deep evaluation of our automation platform and of the systems that we're using to support webinars. We wanted to create an experience for customers that was more about them engaging with us in an always-on type of way. And so stitching together pieces of technology that serve that need in a more programmatic way, Integrate being a huge part of that, as well as other forms of paid media integration and virtual event platforms. I mean, look, it's none of it is earth shattering. I haven't found anything special or unique or magical that other marketers don't know about. It's all about how you set it up, you integrate it, and you leverage it. And I would actually argue that sometimes having a more narrow focus on using your tech stack very, very well, as opposed to just buying anything and everything any marketer in the field could get their hands on is a better approach. And so a lot of it was about putting discipline and rigor and consistency in place, and saying, okay, guys, these are the methodologies we use. This is the tech we have to serve it. Let's make the most of it.
Awesome. Good stuff. All right. I think we have time for one more. And I think that this one might be for Leslie, but I'm sure Scott could chime in as well. What's been the hardest thing about making the shift to growth marketing?
Well, for myself, very honestly, it's actually bringing everybody along on this journey, because it is relatively new. I mean, in principle and in concept, it seems obvious and easy, but the reality is there are some habits, some expectations that we do need to train out of ourselves, out of our sales teams, out of even our leadership team. Asking people can't help but ask the question, well, what was marketing's attribution? And I have to repeatedly say, why don't we talk about the pipeline in total? We can look at where the pipeline's coming from, but I think whether we have enough of it matters a lot more right now. And let's look out into the future, not just what we have today, but what we have next quarter and the quarter after, to see what do we need to do to build what we need. And changing the dialogue is the hardest part. I think, because you have to be convicted and resilient and have the same conversations over and over and over again, and bring people along. Take the feedback too, by the way, but bring people along.
That's great. Scott, anything to add?
No, I think that's grand advice. I just think that this mindset shift is so big, and I know it's touchy-feely and show me how to build campaign this way or that way. All that's important, but I think when you make the difference in your career and your impact on your business, you start with strategy and a change mindset. That's what we're emphasizing.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to leave it off right there. But again, if we did not get to your question live, do not worry. We will definitely follow up and make sure it's answered via email. Thank you once again to Scott and Leslie for this awesome conversation. And thank you to everyone today for taking the time to join us. Please be sure to catch the next session. It's called How to Evolve Your B2B Go-to-Market Strategy with Account-Based Experiences. It kicks off at 2 p.m. Eastern today. So I hope to see you there. Thanks again, everyone, and take care.